Well, good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Unfortunately, no updates to the board today as the Orioles lose 6-3 last night to St. Louis. Look, man, I'm as frustrated as anybody else is. It is inexcusable to miss a called strike three. And we were sitting at the bar because it was trivia night. Everybody knows that. I know you guys are following along. You're waiting desperately to find out what the update is. I wonder if you guys, how do you get your updates for your fantasy trivia league? Is there a website that you go to in order to find out how everybody performed? I just don't know. I got to get on top of that. But I know you guys know that it was trivia night last night, so we were at the bar. And I swear to God, the moment they missed the call strike three, I looked at everybody and said, normally bad things happen. Like, it's almost, you can bank on it. When there's an obvious strike call in a tight situation, as obviously there were last night, 1 out, 2 runners on. When there's an obvious missed strike three in that spot, I don't have the math. It just feels like almost always it leads to something bad. So I said that to the table. Like, I got a bad feeling about this. Now, I didn't realize it would be first career home run. Like, that really tests the baseball gods, right?
Well, that guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. We know that.
Is that so, you think? Look, it doesn't excuse the fact that the only runs the Orioles scored last night were on one swing of the bat. Can't get around that. And it's one thing to say, hey, you're facing a hell of a pitcher in Sonny Gray who's having a great season. That's true. But you were able to get him out fairly early and then not do anything afterwards. So, frustrating. Bad first night in St. Louis. Particularly bad because it's a good Cardinal team. Or, sorry, a bad Cardinal team. But, as we pointed out, they had been playing better baseball of late. And maybe they're starting to figure some things out. Dean Kramer, a couple of rough starts recently. I still think the Orioles are going to remain committed to the 6-man rotation because of the sheer nature of the schedule. That's my gut. But, at some point, they're not going to do 6 men all year long. And, you're going to have to talk about it. There's going to have to be a conversation. And I'm not trying to suggest that Dean Kramer should be out of the rotation or that he hasn't overall been good, because I believe he has. But that's back-to-back rough starts for Dean Kramer. Of course, the start before that was a 6-inning, 1-hit shutout. So we're only 2 starts removed from maybe his best start as an Oriole. But this is how competitive it is in the rotation at the moment, is that last night Dean Kramer had a second straight sketchy start, and I think last night you would qualify as a bad start. And that's the sort of the problem with talking about the phantom strike three, is that, yeah, it's easy to say, well, if the umpire would have called that correctly, he would have been out of it. That's true. That's true. He would have been. But he was laboring in the first inning last night. He was struggling. He didn't have it in the first inning. And the job of a pitcher, of course, is even when you're going to get missed calls. It happens constantly. I don't know if you've been paying attention to baseball. Some might say it's a bit of an epidemic. When there's a missed call, your job is to go do your job anyway. You don't get to say, well, we would have won if not for... No. It doesn't work that way. So, a couple of rough starts back-to-back for Dean Kramer. Last night, obviously, a flatly bad start for Dean Kramer. And after that, it was pretty shaky after that too, right? Suarez put a couple of guys on. Cionel Perez wasn't great. I guess Keegan Aiken was really good, but by that point, it kind of felt like the game was not out of hand, but
it was clear the Orioles weren't going to get hits unless
you
were Gunnar Henderson.
It definitely felt that way, man. It definitely felt that way. Just a rough night. Rough night altogether. So, Orioles dropped the opener. They continue the series tonight. Lance Lynn on the mound for the Cardinals, who has not been nearly as good as Sonny Gray. So maybe that's a promising chance for the Orioles to get things turned around and get going offensively again, going up against Kyle Bradish. So that'll be tonight at 7:45. Lots of Orioles conversation on the program today. In just a couple of minutes, our buddy Tim Kurkjian joins us later on in the show. Sean Casey, of course, the mayor, longtime first baseman and hitting coach, and MLB Network and the Mayor's Office podcast and all the other places where you've seen Sean Casey. And then later on in the program, we will catch up with tomorrow's starting pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals, Kyle Gibson. Can you pull up the numbers, see if there's an update? Because I saw it like 2 weeks ago, what the Orioles' record is now, including the win last week in games where they were in danger of being swept. Like, how many consecutive games have they now won when they've been faced with the streak ending? And I believe it's like 15. It's something in that neighborhood, but I don't know exactly what it is. So I'd like to pull that up to because I do wonder if there's any part of Kyle Gibson that says maybe we go ahead and lose tonight. Maybe, and he wouldn't say that out loud, obviously, but we can have fun with it anyway. Like, maybe get that mojo out of the way. Maybe we don't have to worry about it since the Orioles are seemingly unbeatable in games where they're in danger of being swept. But yes, Kyle Gibson, who had some fun with his old team yesterday. You saw the sign that he put up in the Orioles dugout banning water activity. Pretty funny. Good bit from Kyle Gibson. Didn't stop Gunnar Henderson, obviously, from going yard in a fourth straight game. It's a lot of weird discourse. But all that, also Wes Brown will join us, as he does every Tuesday. We're going to move Patrick Stevens to Thursday and kind of do like a Final Four preview with him that day. So we will, I promise, talk plenty of lacrosse. I do think that we're going to have somebody from Maryland join us this week as well. I promise we're going to talk lacrosse this week. And it looks like Thursday will be the day that we do that. So I noticed, like, the discourse last night on social media was kind of wild. And particularly in relation to Gunnar, I saw there was like a weird bit, like a Gunnar Henderson, Manny Machado bit going on. That was interesting. I saw, I think our buddy Spencer Schultz, who of course does betting stuff for PressBox, was trying to start a Gunnar Henderson might be the greatest Oriole ever, or the greatest, maybe even said the greatest Baltimore athlete ever. I was like, what? All right. I saw this morning our friend Rob Long from 105.7 The Fan. He was doing a Gunnar Adley thing about who gets an extension. Of course, everybody was saying Gunnar. That's where we are. It was just it's a lot of I get it. We're all reacting to the same thing, which is that Gunnar Henderson's on this absurd tear at the moment and looking like a viable MVP candidate. I think MLB.com put out a straw poll of all of their writers. And he was third in the straw poll behind, the obvious. Like, that's sort of the problem with trying to talk about Gunnar Henderson in the MVP conversation. There's no real debate at the moment in the American League. Juan Soto's the MVP. Now, that can change. We're still only not even quite a full 2 months into the season. Much can change. But as much as we want to talk about Gunnar Henderson in MVP context, it's sort of wasted breath at the moment because there is no debate about who the MVP of the league is today. It's Juan Soto. They also their voters had Kyle Tucker in front of Gunnar Henderson, which I get is weird because the Astros are bad. Now, they seem to be turning the corner and getting back to being the Astros.
And being bad's not that's definitely not a. Ohtani's won it though. Has been in the running every year.
Sure, but they weren't bad. Like, they weren't like. I mean, they were disappointing. They were.
But yeah, Kyle Tucker has not been Ohtani. So
yeah, he also Hey, he doesn't play two positions. It's also, although I believe there was a year that Trout was MVP. Although I don't know if they were bad that year.
I mean, they've been bad every year.
Look, Cal Ripken was MVP of a last place team in 1991. There is precedent for bad teams to have an MVP. It was just weird that Kyle Tucker was ahead of Gunnar Henderson to me. Still, Juan Soto's the MVP. I don't feel like any of it is fully warranted, to be honest. It feels to me like forced conversation because what we just want to talk about is, like, the topic du jour is Gunnar Henderson. But you can't get a lot of attention for just saying Gunnar Henderson's good, which is the take. Like, that's the take. We're a season and 2 months into his career. Anything besides that is kind of nonsense. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful because, again, whether you're trying to get attention or whether you're just that excited about Gunnar Henderson that you genuinely believe he's capable of going down as one of the all-time greats, you might be correct. But it's kind of nonsense today, with all due respect. And, again, with all due respect, there have been a lot of great Orioles over the years. Cal Ripken was Rookie of the Year and MVP in back-to-back seasons. Just so happened to be that in the second one, he also won a World Series. It's going to be really difficult to compete, even to try to get the context of, is this the greatest start to a career that we've ever seen? Well, kind of tough to top Rookie of the Year, MVP, World Series winner. Really hard. And I get that sometimes it's difficult for... I really genuinely believe that people of a certain age, the conversation about Cal Ripken is difficult because all they really know about Cal Ripken is consecutive games played. Or, presence at the ballpark, bald head, the whole thing, right? Like, there is... By the way, part of my generation...
He played?
Yeah, right?
What?
Yeah, right?
What?
Well, look, I was born in 83, so I wasn't alive for his Rookie of the Year season. So even for me, I can't give full context to it. Now, I saw more of the great Cal Ripken and that 91 season where, again, he was MVP despite the Orioles being terrible. I mean, terrible. That was sort of when I was falling in love with baseball. That was, that season meant a lot to me, the way that, like, I talked about last season meaning a lot to my kids. That was when I fell in love with Cal Ripken. I guess the 89 season I have some memories of, and it's funny because, like, I have vivid memories of getting, like, the VHS movie they made about the Why Not Orioles that they sold at, like, Crown gas stations or something like that my father brought home for me. But the 91 season, I remember vividly. Like, I am quite aware of Cal Ripken's greatness. And so to be dismissive of Cal Ripken's greatness or even trying to find context for Gunnar Henderson, like even to say, is this the greatest? Because that would be a relevant conversation, right? Is this the greatest start to a career that any Orioles ever had? Well, again, it's tough sledding. Could Gunnar Henderson end up going down one day as an all-time great Oriole? Absolutely. And I certainly feel why it is that people are so encouraged by that possibility. He hits a crazy amount of home runs, and he plays an electric defense. And that was part of what we were responding to last night. Is it not just the big home run, but it's also two really good plays, one otherworldly play that he makes at shortstop last night. Just unfathomably good play. And despite his size, like, man, maybe because of his size, he's able to make those plays now that I think about it. But his athleticism at his size, the range that he's
Doesn't
able to
slow him down at all.
Right. I'm trying to figure out what it is that the wording of how I'm trying to say this. It's phenomenal. We'll have Tim Kurkjian give us more context for it here in a second. It's incredible what we're seeing. But we're just saying things right now. It's got to play out. It's not yet the greatest start to a career in Orioles history. Could he match the accomplishments of Cal Ripken? Perhaps. I mean, they could win MVP in a World Series this year. That's not impossible at all. And if he does, then the conversation will really be ramped up. Is he I was thinking about doing this for the radio show tonight. He's the most talented Oriole that we've seen since, and I think that's where the Manny Machado conversation comes into play. And I'm not sure yet that I could say he's more talented than Manny Machado, but he's hella talented. He's incredibly talented. He's certainly in that conversation. I wish I could remember the call. There was a caller that we had last year on the radio show, and I don't know, Reed and I were having a conversation about Gunnar when he was struggling, and I remember the caller calling and saying something like, I'm not worried about Gunnar. And we were like, yeah, we're not really worried about Gunnar either. Like, he's got too many baseball instincts. And I remember the guy saying back, right, and his name's Gunnar. And I've never agreed with something more nonsensical so quickly, I think, in my entire career as a radio. Like, that doesn't mean anything. And yet, in that moment, I was like, right. His name's Gunnar. Of course he's going to be good at baseball. Like, his name's Gunnar. It's obvious. How did we not see it? How did all these teams in the draft pass on? It was sitting right there. His name's Gunnar. It struck a chord with me. Rita agreed, too. We were all, I wish I could go back and find the audio of this, because like we were all in such quick agreement that Gunnar Henderson was going to be fine because obviously he was going to be great at baseball. His name was Gunnar. And he kind of has that like golden retriever aspect to him. Like you see him as if you threw a Frisbee to a bunch of dogs, that's the dog that's tracking down the Frisbee. He's beating out all the other dogs, and he's getting that Frisbee. You just look at the guy, and you sort of see that in him. That's the way that I felt about him. And I'm excited about Gunnar Henderson, too, just as much as everybody else is. I just think that we're trying to force something in a week where there's no real, like, debate about calling somebody up, in a week where there's no real debate about, you know, even after Dean Kramer's like, you're kicking him out of the rotation, and like there's not really roster decisions that need to be made. I just feel like we're trying to force a topic that's not there because, again, what we're really trying to say is Gunnar Henderson good. Yes. Yes. Okay, we're all in agreement about that.
See, that's the problem.
Right, and then you don't get any attention on Twitter by just saying Gunnar Henderson good. Like, that's not going to get you all the attention bucks that you need, to quote my friends the Junkies. That's not going to get you. You're not going to be able to bank all of that attention by saying Gunnar Henderson good, because like 5 people are going to click like on that, and that's going to be it. So you got to do something more with it. You got to, and I'll, you know, I might bite for the sake of radio tonight, in the same way that Rob was biting. I might bite and try to force, but I'm telling you, it's contrived. It is. It's contrived. Like, there's no genuine conversation there. It's just a different way of saying Gunnar Henderson good. Gunnar Henderson. It's Selena Meyer when she was asked about Ray Rice. Oh, Ray Rice, he play nice. Like, that's it. We're all saying the same thing. We're just trying to find a way that our way of saying it gets more attention than other people's way of saying it. Wait, Gunnar Henderson's good. Glad he's on our side. Ironically, as I've said a couple of times this season, as good as Gunnar Henderson is, I still think Adley Rutschman might be the team MVP. I feel like somehow we keep missing the value. It's easy to say, well, look at what Gunnar Henderson's doing defensively too, right? Get it. What are the pitchers doing? And maybe they'd all do that with anybody being the catcher. Maybe if, you know, Lenny Webster was the catcher for this team.
Maybe Drew French is the team MVP.
Maybe. I mean, maybe that's what it is. But for me to be dismissive of it, for me to not, I can't do that. So it's weird. I do think that Gunnar Henderson deserves to be in the American League MVP conversation. I haven't voted for Orioles MVP in years. I guess because I don't really cover the games anymore. They were sort of like, sorry, you're off the list. But they kept me on the list for the Ravens MVP, which is, I don't know what that was, but they did do that. But they booted me off the list.
Do you vote for the Ravens MVP?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I stopped voting for Good Guy because
because
I don't feel like I'm qualified to. I don't go.
Ties Bowser every year.
It was, and I think that was the reason I stopped voting the first time. Is I was like, yeah, I can't be impartial to this anymore, right? Like I can't. So I'll put an MVP vote in. I feel like I can handle that, but I'm gonna pass on voting for good guy because I'm not over in the locker room, and you guys, I'll trust that you can solve that without me. Believe it or not, I think you can handle it. I don't think you need me. Are we doing?
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good. So, but if I had a vote today, and I don't know why we would collect those votes on May 21st, that seems like a mistake. But if we did, and if they asked me to vote for MVP today for the team, I would vote for Adley Rutschman. That's the reality. As good as Gunnar Henderson is, I think the overall value of what he's done offensively combined with how good the pitching has been, those two things. And I get it. Like, you can, quarrel about pop time, things like that, but he's been really that good. All right. Speaking of good, Grayson Rodriguez was really good the other night, and you can still get this print issue of Press Box right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms and at the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box, so you can read it all. PressBoxOnline.com. Luke Jackson's got a tremendous cover story all about Grayson Rodriguez. Go get that print issue of Press Box today. Joining us now here on GCR, he's had the opportunity to work a few Orioles broadcasts recently over on ESPN Radio. He is one of our favorite people. He is, of course, the great Tim Kurkjian, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Tim, it's Glenn. It's always good to chat, sir. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
My pleasure, Glenn. How you doing?
Everything is good, my friend. Am I crazy to say it this way, that I absolutely believe that Gunnar Henderson is worthy of being in the conversation for American League MVP, and yet if someone put a ballot in front of me today and said, who's the Orioles MVP this season, my vote would go to Adley Rutschman. Am I nuts for that?
No, I've seen that before. I've seen where the guy's the MVP of the league, but he may not be the MVP of his team. Now, I disagree with you. I think Adley Rutschman is great, and I see your point, but if I had to rank them, I would go Gunnar 1 and Adley 2. But when you're the catcher and you run a team and you're a switch hitter and you're in charge of things, you get extra credit points for me. However, Gunnar has been ridiculously good. Leadoff spot, put him in the middle of the order, hit a home run in 5 games in a row, youngest guy ever to hit 10 home runs before May, 5 leadoff homers, and a tremendous defensive player. I did a game, as you said, with the Diamondbacks a couple weeks ago, and Luis Gonzalez, who hit 57 homers one year in the big leagues, met Gunnar Henderson for the first time. I was standing right there. He shook Gunnar's hand. Gunnar walked away, and Gonzo looked at me and said, I can't believe how big he is.
Yeah.
I can't believe how big his hands are. That is a shortstop. And that's what we all have to remember is he plays a premium skill position. He plays it beautifully. He can run, and he's a great hitter. There is nothing not to like about Gunnar Henderson.
Agreed on all accounts. Agreed in every. I think I feel like the starting pitching in particular has been such a part of the story of the 2024 Orioles and why we have such confidence in their ability of what they can do this season. That's the reason why I keep defaulting back to. But I think there's maybe even a little bit more value. And maybe, who knows? Maybe if Lenny Webster was the catcher of this team, they would still be this good, and it's just that these pitchers are all reaching whatever the special sauce is that the Orioles now have in the organization, they would all be this good. But I can't shake that. Like, it's been absurd to me how good the starting pitching has been for this team this season.
Right. They have, now that Grayson Rodriguez is back and John Means is back, they have 6 quality major league starting pitchers, maybe more. And not many teams can say that. Bunch of teams have 6, 7, 8 starters because they need them. But the front 6 for the Orioles has been spectacular this year. And I was told that Dean Kramer, when Corbin Burns showed up, he just watched him pitch once and said, I can't believe how good he is. We all have to get better just to try to get close to him. That's the impact that he has had. And getting Kyle Bradish back, of course, has really been great. And Grayson Rodriguez, I did his game the other day, 5 no-hit innings. He was great for 6. And Means, of course, had the one start against Cincinnati that might have been his best start other than the no-hitter that he threw. And Cole Irvin, went 20 2/3 scoreless. I mean, there is so much to like about this rotation. And when you have a good rotation, really good, and you lead the league in homers, you're going to win a lot of games.
So we're chatting with Tim Kurkjian here on GCR. So with that said, if I have concerns, right, of late, are they too reliant on the long ball? And, we look at that on-base percentage, and, I did some research recently, Tim. There's been one team since the turn of the century that's won a World Series with an on-base percentage lower than .319, and that was the 2014 Giants at .311. The Orioles are still a good 5 points lower than that. Is there a problem there, or is it just, hey, it's 2 months into the season, the players they have are too good, that's going to get corrected as the year goes on?
Yes, that's what I think is going to happen. Now, the game I did the other day, they're like 27th in the league in walks for their hitters. And I understand in this day and age, taking a walk is exceptionally important. But I'm also 67 years old, and I grew up at a time when Steve Garvey and Don Mattingly would take a pitch 4 inches outside and rifle it to the opposite field and knock in 2 runs. So I love it that the Orioles swing the bats. But eventually they're going to have to be a little bit more patient, have a few more guys on base when they hit a home run. But I'm not too worried about it. That on-base percentage will go up. They'll get more hits. And as long as they keep hitting homers, they're going to be a really good offensive team.
Right. As everybody points out, the point of getting on base is to score runs, and they largely do that just fine. I think that you're right. I don't think I'm panicked about it. It is still very interesting, though, because, and I think we talked about this at the beginning of the season, there's sort of a subplot to this year, Tim, which is the old guard, new guard thing. And as Anthony Santander has struggled mightily and Cedric Mullins has struggled mightily, but yet they weren't ready to commit to giving full at-bats to Heston Kjerstad the way that they clearly have been with Colton Cowser. I still think that there's fascinating elements to this that have to play out during the course of the season, where how far do you go with your trust of what guys have been to you in the last couple of years versus what they are at this point, and when's it time to start committing more to the next wave of players?
Right, and this is where general managers and managers earn all their money, making decisions like that. Do we stay with Austin Hayes? Do we platoon with Colton Cowser in left field? What do we do with Cedric Mullins if he's still hitting under 200? What are we going to do in right field? When do we bring up the kids? These are really difficult decisions, and they're going to be hard in that some guys who have really helped this club might be told, hey, we got to go younger. And then you got to make sure the younger guy is ready. So no matter how talented those young guys are, come to the big leagues for the first time and say, yeah, just hit like you did at Norfolk. It's not that easy. Right. So there are so many elements in play here for the Orioles, but most of the elements are really good. And that's why you have to have faith that they have all the resources to go do pretty much whatever they need to do to make this team better.
So that starts becoming fascinating, obviously, and I think the conversation begins in the back end of the bullpen, Tim. And, obviously Craig Kimbrell is going to default back to being the closer. I was at least interested in them giving Yennier Cano a chance, but he has struggled a good bit the last couple of weeks. Do you feel like even if Craig Kimbrell stabilizes a bit, they still – I keep coming back to the workload and what you need from a closer to try to win a World Series. I think Craig Kimbrell can be a valuable leverage arm for the Orioles, but I still struggle with trusting that he is the workhorse closer that you can win a World Series with in 2024. Am I wrong to feel that way, or does that sound about right to you?
I'm going to give Craig Kimbrell pretty much the whole year to figure this out. If you get to the trade deadline and you realize that we might not be able to win a World Series, because that's all this should be about now, with Craig Kimbrell as the closer, then you have to go use some of those resources in the minor leagues to go get some help for the back end of the bullpen. And there are maybe some guys available. I mean, the Cardinals have a closer who's got 14 saves, and if they're no longer in this thing, Ryan Helsley may be perfect for the Orioles. Estevez of the Angels may be available and may be an upgrade. But it's not going to be easy to get those guys. They might not even be available, and you're going to have to give up a ton to get them. So the goal for the Orioles will be to try to make sure that Kimbrell is good enough to close Game 7 of the World Series somewhere. And that's the decision they're going to have to make in the next couple of months before the trade deadline, and it will not be an easy decision.
Even if they are confident where Kimbrell is there wisdom? I remember talking about this a year ago, that even before Felix Bautista hurt, I was interested in dipping into the leverage arm market, because it feels like in the postseason you need multiple of those guys, because you might be turning to a closer in the 5th inning of a game to make sure that you hang in there. Is there wisdom in saying, even if you're confident in Craig Kimbrell, you should still be trying to dip your toes into the water of leverage back-end arms, because that's what it takes to win a World Series?
Absolutely. Davey Johnson, former Oriole manager, told me many years ago, you win in the postseason with bullpen and bench. And that was at a time, he told me that, when starting pitchers actually really, really mattered. Now, bench and bullpen matter even more, given the workload that our relievers get these days. So, yes, even if you are sure that Craig Kimbrell is your closer and can save Game 7 on the road in the World Series, you're still going to need 2 more relievers. And I say this for almost every team out there. You're going to need a couple more relievers just in case he needs a rest, just in case to cover the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings. Look at those Giant teams that won 3 times. The strength of those clubs were just a deep, versatile bullpen. And that's what the Orioles need to do with their prospects, is to make sure they're loaded in October when they get to the bullpen.
What does your gut tell you about what the time frame is for Jackson Holliday at this point, Tim? Like, it seems, it hasn't been great since he returned to AAA. Does it feel like that this is not anytime soon at this point?
Yeah, I don't think so, and I don't think it needs to be, okay? Jorge Mateo is a good major league player, and he can play multiple positions. Jordan Westburg is a well above average major league player, and he gets better every single day. So you got to make sure there's a position for Jackson Holliday to play, but I'm not worried at all about him. I don't care about 2 for 34. Whenever he gets there, whenever he figures this out, he will be really good. But it may take longer, and I don't think there's a rush to bring him up, and I don't think there should be. He's got to get his swing back. He will, and then he'll be a really, really good player for a long time. But there's no rush, so I wouldn't rush him.
Yeah, I understand that, and to your point, Jorge Mateo has gotten the job done. And I would have lost that bet a year ago when I thought that he was crawling and hanging on to a roster spot at that point. He certainly has handled himself quite well this season. Tim, we saw a moment last night, and I want to have it, because it's not the reason why we get into this where we obsess as humans over calls that are incorrect, and we pretend the Orioles didn't lose last night because of a missed strike 3 call, but it was a bad one, right? Like, it was a really bad missed strike 3 that led to Michael Ciani's first career home run, a 3-run home run last night. Do you have a sense for what's next? We've seen them flirting with the challenge system. Everybody talks about robot umps, but do you have a sense for what an actual time frame might look like for when there could ever be a change to balls and strikes in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I think we'll have a change, maybe even a significant one, in 5 years. Now, others say it's going to happen next year, but I still need to see proof in the minor leagues that it is actually working, whether the challenge system or some sort of augmented reality where we can help an umpire get something in his ear We may be 5 years from now at completely an automated system, which I'm totally against at the moment. I just think the umpires are better than people think. It's a really hard job, and they need some help. The game is so fast right now, and when you're trying to call a pitch within an inch of each other at 97 miles an hour with the movement that we see, that is not an easy job. So I think within 5 years, we will have a change to the strike zone system, the ball strike system, but I just don't think we should, or it will go all the way to an automated system in the next 3 or 4 years.
But more the challenge system, the maybe once per at bat.
Right, and maybe that's the way to go. But again, I need to see even more proof that it's working in the minor leagues. I'm told it is, but I need to see it work so it's as close to flawless as possible.
Tim Kurkjian, what's going on in your world? What can I plug for you, my friends?
Well, my son and I do a podcast now, Father-Son Baseball Podcast. It runs every Tuesday. It's out right now, podcast number 9. We have a lot of fun. We learn, we laugh. This week's guest, we have a guest every week. This week's guest is Steve Rushin of Sports Illustrated, who is the single greatest writer that I've ever read. He is the funniest person I've ever met, and he might be the smartest person I've ever met. And he is our guest, and if you don't laugh multiple times out loud during his 40-minute interview that we ran, then there's something wrong with you. That's how clever he is with language. The stories he tells are priceless. So Jeff Kurkjian and I just let him go, and it was so much fun. Every week on our podcast, it is so much fun. And I'm so thrilled to be doing this with my son. It's a dream of a lifetime for old dad here.
That's very cool. GreatGameOrWhat.com is the website to find out more. And, of course, as always, at Kurkjian_ESPN. Tim Kurkjian, always appreciate you. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us this morning.
Okay, Glenn. Thank you.
It's Tim Kurkjian from ESPN with us here on GCR. Look, last night that thing wasn't high profile enough to get the conversation. I hate it, but it's going to require. It's like we always say this with football. To get this conversation going, it requires something higher profile.
It's like we were talking about yesterday with the lacrosse. Like, in the championship game, then you finally institute, or was it the final? It was the Final Four. Then you finally have replay.
Famously, I believe it was that Maryland-Virginia NCAA tournament game a few years ago where there was Maryland scored an obvious game-tying goal that they missed. Like, they just did not see that the ball went into the net.
Oh, my God.
Or maybe was it they scored, or was it that they gave Virginia Phantom? One of those two things happened late in that game.
Gotcha.
And that was like considered the impetus for, okay, all right, we got to do this for the tournament specifically. Now it's expanded to all of college lacrosse. Well, it was supposed to expand. Some conferences weren't ready for it, so they just didn't do it this year. But replay, hell, we had it at the D3 level in some cases, despite the fact that the camera angles were not, ideal necessarily for replay. That last night, we're very frustrated by it. And again, it's much like I talk about with Johns Hopkins in Virginia. I'm frustrated that they had replay and still got it wrong and, hid behind the, maybe. No, you all saw the same thing. We all saw it across the country. McCabe-Millen's toe was in the crease. And you could do the bit where you're like, well, I don't want that to be how we take goals off. You can say whatever you want to say. It's in the crease. But you also can't make it that's the reason why Johns Hopkins lost. They got hosed on that call, 100%. But they also did it to themselves in the second half. It can be both. Last night, the Orioles didn't lose because of a missed strike 3. I don't know what would have happened to the next batter had that been called a strikeout. Next guy might have hit a home run anyway. We have no idea. But you want him to get the calls right. And what was particularly frustrating last night was it was clear that it was just the catcher was set up high. The pitch was in the lower part of the zone. And because of that, the home plate umpire just guessed that you missed. It's a joke. It's laughable.
The scorecards have finally been posted from the scorecards account on Twitter.
Yeah.
And they always do, like, the overall favor, so typically you see, like, maybe 0.2 runs in favor of one team, 0.3. It's not 0.1.13 favored to the Cardinals, which is the
1.1 or
one over a run favored towards the Cardinals. Obviously, again, it was a 6-3 loss. Like, it's not.
We can't do this where we try to make it seem like the Orioles they had 3 hits for the game. They only scored runs on 1 swing of the bat. But we know that this isn't just about one game or one instance. This conversation is infuriating. And it's been worse for the introduction of the strike zone on TV has really wrecked this for baseball. Because it presents theater of the absurd. It presents these opportunities for the world to see something that you don't. And I get it. We're not supposed, like, that square is not biblical, right? It's not. It's sort of like the way we always said the first down marker in football is not, that's not official, but it's pretty effing close. And close enough that it's good enough for us to go with it, and then it's very bad it's a bad thing for the sport that we're all seeing something and they're telling us no. That why are we watching? Why watch if what we're seeing isn't real? That's been particularly tough for baseball, and almost uniquely tough for baseball, because there's no sport where you can have a comparison to that. What you see isn't real. Like, stop. So this has needed to be fixed for some time. This is not about last night. Yes, last night was embarrassing. But it's not belly aching because of it. This is needed to be fixed. But as I've said all along, the hitters are going to be bothered by it. Whenever we get there, they're going to find out how much bigger the strike zone is.
And, I mean,
that's the reality.
And they'll adjust, too. So
presumably. But, like, they're going to find out quick that once if we ever get the full automated balls and strikes, they're going to find that out. They're going to find out that it's a significantly bigger strike zone, because all you got to do is tap the smallest piece of it in order for it to be called a strike. All right, when we come back in, we'll talk high school sports. Our buddy Wes Brown from CountySports.Zone will let us know what's going on. It's championship season. We're doing that next here on GCR.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
Back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll catch up with the mayor, Sean Casey, get his thoughts on Adley Rutschman, who he was talking about on the Mayor's Office podcast not that long ago. But before we do that, it's time for us to get caught up on what's going on in championship season now in high school sports. CountySports.Zone is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Joining us now for County Sports Zone Radio is our friend Wes Brown. Wes, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good, not too much.
So obviously a busy week. Of course, the big story of the week being the MIAA lacrosse championships, and not all that stunning how it ended up playing out.
Yeah, so McDonough ended up pulling off a win over top-seeded Boys Latin there in the Boys Lacrosse Championship, 14-12. It was kind of a back-and-forth game throughout, but they had a little 2-goal spurt there right before the half that kind of made all the difference there. But yeah, certainly a tight and exciting game to watch. And
of course, I say it's not all that surprising, not because Boys Latin wasn't the top seed, but because McDonough's done this a few times recently.
Yeah, third championship in a row there.
Yep, obviously a very impressive feat. Not the only championships, obviously. The Curly, right, won the B Conference lacrosse title?
Yep. Curly ended up pulling that one off, so pretty good weekend there down in Annapolis.
All right, and then the baseball championship is being like this is the timing for the MIAA, right? Like that the Archbishop Spalding, Calvert Hall battling it out for the baseball title.
Yeah, and they ended up going the full 3 games, so they played before, and then they faced off on Sunday. But Calvert Hall made things interesting with a game 2 win, but Spalding was able to come out yesterday and close things out in game 3. So 2-1 series win there, but it was definitely a good battle there, seeing both teams get wins and force that game 3.
All right, so Spalding wins the MIAA baseball title. Now, still some public school titles to be determined before high school sports season is over. With that in mind, who is the player of the week? It's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. When I was putting together, I figured you'd like this one. Emma Kitchen from Perry Hall softball threw a 2-hitter to win the region championship over Dundalk last week. Fascinating game. It was low scoring 2-0 game. They actually closed it out with a triple play with 2 runners on. So definitely a big win there, and a 2-hitter that really helped propel them here. They're actually going to be in the region or the state semifinals tonight.
So yeah, let's get into that, right? Because it's semifinals for both baseball and softball tonight, correct?
Yep.
And then what's the rest of the schedule like for the public school championships this week?
Yeah, so baseball, softball semifinals tonight at neutral sites. All that's on CSE. But lacrosse state championships start tonight as well. We've got Queen Anne's County versus Glenelg in girls 2A at 4. Severna Park First House and boys 3A at 6, and then Delaney Severna Park girls 3A at 8. So state championships starting tonight. Lacrosse is also Wednesday and Thursday this week. And then baseball, softball after tonight, their finals are both Friday and Saturday.
And you can find all that information out over at CountySports.Zone, correct?
Yep. So we've got all the scores and schedules. We've got the brackets with all the results as soon as they become final. And yeah, we've got all the alternate locations because the semifinals are in neutral sites and all the state championships. Stevenson for lacrosse, UMD for softball, and then the minor league stadium down in Waldorf for boys
Very
baseball.
good. So all that available at CountySports.Zone. Remind everybody about social media as well.
Yeah, so at CSC Scores on Twitter and Instagram, and you can also head to the website and play our playoff pick'em. We've got girls lacrosse and baseball here down the final stretch.
Excellent. And of course, you're on social media.
Yep, W_Brown21.
Very good. Wes Brown, appreciate you, man. We'll talk again next Tuesday, all right?
All right, sounds good.
It's Wes Brown, County Sports Zone Radio here on GCR. All right, so a couple of things this morning, multiple reports. The Baltimore Ravens are hosting for a visit veteran safety Jamal Adams, who is certainly a name you recognize and who at a time was a pretty good football player. There's a reason, of course, that Jamal Adams is available on May 21st. It's because he doesn't really play football anymore. Over the course of the last couple of years, in Seattle, he's played just 10 total games over the last 2 seasons. I forgot that during the pandemic year, Jamal Adams had a 9.5 sack season. 9.5 sacks during the pandemic year, and he only played in 12 games. Like, had he played the full season, he would have had a double-digit sack season, which is wild. Jamal Adams hasn't played a full season since 2018, but, played 12 games in both 2020 and 2021. The injuries are the story for Jamal Adams. I say they're the story. They're a big part of the story. To be fair, I didn't watch enough of the Seahawks last year to know, like, hey, when Jamal Adams played, how effective was he? I know he used to be a really good football player. And considering the number of lottery tickets that the Ravens bought a year ago that turned out to be helpful pieces, there's a part of you that sort of defaults to hold up, let him cook for Eric DeCosta when it comes to taking a flyer on some of these types of guys.
Maybe he'll use him as an edge rusher. Just
maybe. The belief that a lot of people have had is that the Ravens would be in the safety market because you want to be able to use Kyle Hamilton more freely. You want to be able to line him up on the edge, at linebacker, in all sorts of different ways, at cornerback.
D-line.
Yes. Literally something they've done. Yeah, I don't know about that. I think that they might not do that, but, who knows. So there isn't a ton of depth at the safety position for the Baltimore Ravens. And then you add into that the fact that Marcus Williams, seemed like he was playing with one arm, and he has also dealt with injuries since becoming a Baltimore Raven. It makes sense that the Ravens are in the safety market. Is Jamal Adams the guy? It's hard for me to feel that way. But he might be the guy that's available at the right price. I feel like there's somebody. Who's the other free agent safety that everybody's enamored with that's still out on the market right now? It's going to drive me nuts. There's another free agent safety that everybody was like, well, why wouldn't the Ravens sign this guy? And I apologize. I can't.
I'm trying to figure out what guys were signed. Was Jordan Poyer signed yet?
That's not the one. Yeah. Current NFL free agents. I'll come up with it.
Yeah, I know you will.
Oh, God. All right. Free agency tracker. No, that's not it. I need the rankings list. Damn it. I'm as bad as Griffin is.
Yeah. No, you're not as bad.
Yeah, well,
because I'm not that bad, so it's not.
Well, it seems like whenever I need something like this, it always ends up being difficult. All right, safeties. Thank you. All right, still unsigned at safety. It wasn't Poyer. Maybe it's somebody who already signed, and that's part of the problem. That's why I don't see them anymore. Because the top listed for PFF was Tashawn Gibson, and that certainly wasn't it. Oh, come on. Micah Hyde, that's not who it was.
Justin Simmons.
Justin Simmons. Thank you. Thank you.
Knew it.
You did get there before I did. Look at you. Look at you. Win
Eddie Jackson still available?
for Griffin. Yeah, Justin Simmons was the one that everybody was sort of like, why? Why is he still out there? That doesn't make sense. And I feel like that's why a lot of Ravens fans were particularly inclined that Justin Simmons should be the answer. But if part of the issue is that Justin Simmons is still looking for, like, real money, I don't know. Yeah, Eddie Jackson, as you pointed out. Marcus May is still out there. Quandre Diggs, Micah Hyde. Other guys that are still available and that Ravens fans are interested in. I'm
Adrian Amos.
Oh, right, who visited last year but never signed with the Ravens, which is weird, right? Like, obviously a Calvert Hall alum, Baltimore native. I'm not enamored with the idea of Jamal Adams, but I do think that they're going to add a safety. And if Jamal Adams, the idea of being in Baltimore and thinking that he could resurrect himself leads to him saying, yeah, I'd probably sign there for a much smaller amount of money, then I could see why it would make sense to the Ravens. If it was real money, then I can't fathom that for a second. I don't have stronger takes to offer than that. I get why they're bringing him in for a visit. I get why you're not excited about it. I do think that the Ravens have hit a little bit recently on guys that we weren't excited about necessarily when they signed, and maybe deserve slightly more of a benefit of the doubt because of that. When we come back in, we'll get back into Orioles conversation. Sean Casey, the mayor, joins us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flight's Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
Into hour number 2 here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Today's show also brought to you by the Stan the Fan Variety Hour. Stan, Luke Jackson, Ross Grimsley got together yesterday, as they do every Monday, over at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Talking baseball, talking Orioles, and if you missed that, you can find it not only there, but also at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson, they talk baseball with you every Monday, and then Stan joins you every Thursday as well, with Eric Garfield talking prospects and the lower levels of the system. So 2 shows every week for Stan the Fan. I do not know what the plan is for this coming Monday with the holiday. We will definitely not be here this coming Monday, although Rita and I will be with you Monday morning from 6 to 9 over at 105.7 The Fan. So if you're missing your fix, if you need that, if you just got to inject it right into your veins, the drug that is a little Glenn Clark action in your life, you can do that over on 105.7 The Fan Sunday morning as Rita and I, Monday morning as Rita and I will be over there, but not here on Monday. We'll be off for the holiday. I did not watch the hockey last night because when the Orioles game was over, I looked up and it was 3-0, and I said, well, nothing to watch. Turns out apparently it got very interesting. So I do kind of regret that.
Canucks did not wake up until the third period.
Yeah, and they got back to 3-2 from where it was at 3-0. So the final piece of the NHL Conference Finals picture is together. That's the best chance for getting me to watch hockey, is a night where there's not basketball to watch. It's just with the Orioles and basketball, it's too much. Like tonight will be difficult enough. Also, I'm doing a radio show tonight on top of all of that. So tonight will be difficult enough because the Orioles start at 7:45. It's one thing when the Orioles have been starting at 6:30 and then the basketball is on after that. The Orioles start 15 minutes before the basketball game starts tonight. So the likelihood is that I'm not even going to be able to watch much of the basketball this evening, which is, of course, a bummer for me, although I'm not all that excited about Pacers Celtics. I don't like either of these fan bases. I guess you said, hey, did you have a rooting interest? Well, one, it's obviously F Boston, like always F Boston. But the other part of it is Jalen Smith, of course, is a Pacer and is a good guy. He's been a guest on this program many times over the years, so I'm inclined to feel good for him. I know he's only been playing a few minutes a game for the Pacers in the playoffs, but really like Jalen Smith, always have. He's a really good guy. There have been moments during his NBA career where it's felt like he was breaking out. It's like felt like he was putting everything together and ready to be the guy that was drafted very early in the NBA draft, but it just never has consistently worked out for him. But, yeah, I'll root for Jalen Smith, and I'll root for it to not be Boston because F Boston. I told you guys yesterday I'm absolutely going to be rooting for Minnesota in the Western. They're just too much fun. They're too much fun. They're too enjoyable. And, yes, the Tim Connolly thing as well. But I'll be rooting for Minnesota. So, inevitably, it's going to be a Boston-Dallas final, just the way that it'll go, just to break my heart. But, yeah, I'll pay attention to that. That starts tonight, Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Eastern Conference Finals belong to ESPN and ABC. So, sorry. That's what it is. The Western Conference Finals will be on TNT. All right. So, trying to track down Sean Casey.
We are.
What does that mean?
It means we're trying to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thought that you were encouraging.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I thought you were misleading in the way that you said.
I apologize. I apologize.
Like, no, we got him. It's all good. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll work on tracking down Sean Casey. In the meantime, I'll give you the trivia stuff from last night. Just for those of you that are living and dying over it, good news. We did win last night at trivia. pulled it out. We were actually leading going into the final, and I did not know the answer for the final, but I did manage to get it. On top of that, that was the final night of the regular season. We clinched the regular season title. The problem is we've been like the Lamar Jackson Baltimore Ravens of late. We've been really good in the regular season, and we have fallen apart in the playoffs. We've only even made it through the semifinals once to the ultimate, to the World Series of trivia. And I think most of our team is not available for the semifinals this season, so probably going to keep that up. That streak looks like it's going to continue.
So you need to call to the bullpen, is what you're saying?
If you're available, there's some of us are going to it. One of our friends is getting married that day.
Doesn't he know it's the? Why would he schedule?
Jerk, the both of them. Thanks a lot, Kyle. Gosh,
Kyle. Wait.
And I like Kyle's soon-to-be husband. I like him. I actually like him almost as much as I like Kyle. Like, we love both of them. But, like, jerks. Both you, the two of you.
You've never won.
Had to get married. I'm convinced they're getting married in June because it's June 1st because it's the start of Pride Month. Like, I'm convinced of that. Like, oh, you couldn't have gotten married this weekend just because it's Memorial Day and people make plans? Gosh. So
you've never won the trivia championship.
No, we are there. We're like until a couple days ago with the Xander Schauffele of trivia. He's been great. We won lots of things.
So what you need is the other team to get like arrested. And
yeah, that'll help. Yeah, that'll help if we can look into that somehow. So the final last night, I did not know the answer to, but we figured it out pretty quickly, which was who is the only U.S. president to have been named Time Man of the Year before being elected as president.
Before being elected as president.
Before being elected as president, who is the only U.S. president to have been named Time Man of the Year before being elected as president.
So now, is this kind of a trick question? Like, is there a chance this is a trick question where
I don't.
They weren't like they were the vice president and they became president?
I just gave you before the year in which they were elected. So before the election year, right? So, like, if they took office in 2001, but they were named Man of the Year in 2000, then that doesn't count.
George Bush is the answer?
I don't know if that. I'm saying that doesn't. That's good because that's the year they were elected.
I'm gonna go.
So who is the only U.S. president to have been named Time Man of the Year before they were elected as president?
I'm going to go with Harry Truman.
It's a truly a terrible guess.
Why?
I don't. Why did you think it was Harry Truman?
Well, because like since he became president after FDR passed away, and then they won World War II, and then he I think was elected president. If I have my dates, I could be wrong about that, but no. So since he technically wasn't elected, that was why I went with Harry Truman. Ronald Reagan then?
No, definitely not Ronald Reagan.
I don't know why he would have
definitely not Ronald Reagan.
Man of the Year. Or Person of the Year, whatever.
Ultimately, this one really was easy. I think most every team got it, thankfully.
Donald Trump?
No, it's definitely not Donald Trump. Remember, Donald Trump so badly wants to be Time Man of the Year that, like, he had a fake Time Man of the Year magazine that he made. Although, was he not Man of the Year the year that he got elected? I actually don't. I would assume that he would have been, like, that. I mean, Hitler was Time Man of the Year once. Like,
oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, so you don't need to be good at president.
No, you don't need to be good at president. Well said. Well said.
I'll go.
Well said.
I'll
go.
Need
to be good at president. Hang on a second.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna just guess every president. JFK. What now? Why would he have won?
Yeah, Donald Trump was named Man of the Year the year that he won the election. It feel like that happens a lot. Like election years, whoever wins the election. Barack Obama was 2008 and 2012.
Same for
Joe Biden shared it with Kamala Harris in 2020.
Sticking with the World War II theme, I'll go with Eisenhower.
That was the obvious answer.
That's the obvious answer?
Yes, it's the obvious answer. Who the hell else would it be?
Harry Truman.
No. Yes, of course it was Dwight Eisenhower.
Why is it of course? I mean, okay.
Because he was a 5-star general. Like, yes, of course. The answer was Dwight Eisenhower.
Yeah, okay, I didn't know. Oh, yeah.
Like, that's the obvious answer. The the only one who even batted around any more than that was Obama because he gave that speech at the convention and he became like overnight sensation, but that wasn't going to be enough to be Time Man of the Year. So, yes, the obvious answer was Eisenhower, and it, of course, was Eisenhower in 1944. So, there you go. There you go. That is the correct answer to the question.
1944. Okay.
Yep,
All right.
1944. Dwight D. Eisenhower was the correct answer. The sports questions from last night. The first question, it was funny because I was walking in a couple minutes late last night because I came from my son's baseball game.
How they doing?
And
it
was a rough night.
Oh, no.
Rough night. I mean, for the team, it was fine. For him,
Oh.
I think because he didn't get a normal night of sleep on Sunday night because we were coming back from New York, and then it was just all downhill from there.
So it is
right?
it's your fault.
Yes, definitely it was a Newfound Glory song. He forgot his hat. And then for some reason my wife didn't choose to go back to the house to get his hat. She just said, "Go play without a hat."
How are you going to learn?
Yeah, no, not okay. Dropped a pop-up.
Oh, jeez. Well, I bet if he had the hat, yeah.
Struck out looking.
Ooh.
Struck out looking. By the way, struck out looking at ball 4. Like, it was a terrible call. I mean, it was as bad of a call as
Last Diaz.
Yeah. And I get that it's tough because these kids are so small that, like, it feels like the umpire's like, well, we got to expand the strike zone or else they'd never swing. Like, it's impossible for, a young person to find the strike zone consistently as a pitcher when the strike zone is, that big. But his pitches were up here. Still, he kept bat on his shoulders. And
he didn't look ready.
3-strike count. You can't do that. Yeah. You gotta protect, and he didn't protect. And just a rough night.
So what's the car ride it back like?
Well, I went to trivia.
Oh, okay. So he kind of dodged a bullet, maybe?
Oh, yeah, 100% dodged a bullet. 100%. So
are you gonna blame the manager like a lot of Orioles fans want
nope.
to? Or
Nope.
No,
That's on him. That's on him. You can say it's on me. I gotta practice. We gotta work harder. That's no one cares. Work harder.
More time in the cage, and
that's the way it goes. You don't complain. You just work harder, and we didn't do that. So it's on me. It's on me. I take full accountability. I promise I'll be better.
What about the hat thing though? Or that's kind of.
It's on Mrs. Clark.
Oh, it's on Mrs. Clark. Okay.
It's on him, but like Mrs. Clark.
Is this kid gonna ever? Is he gonna take any of the blame?
No, I just put it's on me and him him. He's gotta finish the catch. Like he was right there. He was in position.
Right.
He just didn't catch the ball. And there was another one that they had him play first base at one point, which that's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. Not a good sign.
I mean,
and
good first baseman.
And there was another pop-up issue. Not one that he dropped, but just one that he didn't get to. Now that one it might have been because he was staring in the sun. So I'm walking in trivia last night as the first question.
You know what he's gonna say? He's gonna say, "I need Oakley sunglasses now."
Gotta spend the big bucks. So I'm walking in as the first question has been read, and as I walk in, I see that my team, and they all are panicked. They're all like, "Dude, look up! Look up!" We don't. The question was, what golfer has won the most major championships all time? It's a very easy question.
Tiger Woods.
No, Jesus.
Oh, because it's
Christ. Oh no. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Because it's why can't I think of the
Oh God.
Who he's chasing?
Oh
why
God.
his name is just completely escaping me.
Oh boy.
Because I know we did this tidbit like recently too.
Oh damn! I had a good tidbit for Drew this week too. Jay Kuda provided it. It's wonderful.
Jay Kuda with a golf tidbit.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, because it's not Arnold Palmer.
It's definitely not Arnold Palmer. Arnold Palmer.
John Daly. It's not him either.
It's certainly not John Daly. Out there riding his golf cart around at the PGA Championship this weekend.
Why am I doing so bad with this?
Yeah, this is really, really bad.
I'm not a golf guy.
It's not about not being a golf guy.
Yeah, I know. I should know it.
This is bad.
You could just not tell me ever, and then I'll probably I might come up with it, in the next 45 minutes or so.
This is so painful, man.
Why can't I think of
the greatest golfer of all time?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know he's the greatest golfer of all time. Because as soon as I said Tiger, I was like, I know it's not Tiger.
Yep, it's definitely not Tiger. Although we all thought he was gonna break the record, he didn't. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I just can't think. I just can't.
I just
can't come up with the name.
He has a famous nickname. Really famous nickname.
Right, yeah, it's because it's
Yeah.
Jack Nicklaus.
Thank you. Jesus, that was painful. So then the follow-up, the bonus point question was.
I knew it.
Did you?
I mean, yeah, it was in there.
After you got
it was
the other.
in there.
God. Cleaning the cobwebs out of the brain. The follow-up,
yeah.
there was a bonus point available if you could name the college where he attended and played golf.
Stanford.
It was not Stanford.
Because it was Oregon.
It was not Oregon.
Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
It was not North Carolina.
Texas. It was
Keep
Texas.
going.
It was Texas.
It was not Texas.
Oh, because he was in Oklahoma then.
Right. No, it definitely wasn't Oklahoma either.
UNLV?
Not UNLV. I can understand.
Golf, maybe.
I can understand why you go to UNLV.
Sanford.
Not what? Samford?
Yeah, Sanford.
No, not Samford.
I know it wasn't Maryland.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't Maryland.
That wasn't a guess. Don't count that one. Don't count that one.
Don't count that one. All right. No, you got it. Not
Florida.
Count that one. Keep going.
Florida State.
Not Florida State.
Jacksonville.
Could be here for a while.
Just name every school.
Speaking of Samford, congratulations.
Stevenson? No, it wasn't Stevenson.
It wasn't Stevenson. Congratulations to our friend Kadri Ismail, whose son Kadir signed a contract with the Ravens as an undrafted free agent yesterday. Kadir, who had played quarterback at Villanova, ended up finishing his college career as a wide receiver at Samford, and the Ravens will give him a look at wide receiver. So congratulations to our buddy Q.
Tennessee.
Not Tennessee.
Ohio State.
Hey!
No, really?
You got there eventually.
I knew it.
How about did you?
Yeah.
It was funny because
It was in there.
Proctor actually showed up later than I did, and I was telling him about this, and he was like, right, because it was Cal. And I looked at him for a second, I'm like, no. And then I realized he thought it was Cal because Jack Nicklaus's nickname is, of course, the Golden Bear, and he genuinely believed that was because he played for the Golden Bears.
Oh.
It's not the case.
is.
Not the case. He went to Ohio
That'd be a good
State.
nickname.
Went to Ohio State. The other one was who is number 2 all-time in hits in Major League Baseball history?
Ichiro.
Not Ichiro.
Ty Cobb.
Not. Yes, it is Ty Cobb, actually.
All right, good.
Yeah, it's Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb is.
Pete Rose counts.
Is correct. What's that?
Pete Rose counts?
Yes.
Okay.
Pete Rose
Okay,
is
good.
still recognized by Major League Baseball as being the all-time hit king. I actually struggled with that for a second because I was like, well, I know he broke Ty Cobb's record. The problem is, like, once somebody breaks a record, you never know if somebody goes back and, like, surpasses number 2 on the list because no one would care, right? Like, why would you care if Tony Gwynn or Wade Boggs or somebody like that also surpassed Ty Cobb, because that's not the record, and you just might not know. But I just decided to default to it was Ty Cobb's record that he broke, so I'll assume that it's still Ty Cobb who sits at number 2 on the list, and that was a smart decision, as it indeed was Ty Cobb. So, yep, big winners last night at Monday Night Trivia. So, go ahead and congratulate me and send. I think we edible arrangements will accept, like anything along those lines. So please go ahead and do that. I was also sent, when we were talking about it earlier, Gunnar Henderson is looking to become the 5th all-time player to be Rookie of the Year one season and then MVP the following season. I already gave you one, obviously, today that did it in 82 and 83.
Right. Cal.
Yeah, thank you.
It was in there.
Do you know who the 3 others, all which have happened since Cal Ripken? Cal Ripken was the oldest of this group. In fact, I'll go ahead and just for funsies give you that all of the other 3 occurred in this millennium.
So they won Rookie of the Year and then League MVP.
Yes, in back-to-back seasons.
That's a tough one. Mike Trout.
Not Mike Trout.
Wow.
Not Mike Trout.
Did he win Rookie of the Year?
I actually don't know. It's so funny you say that. You would assume that he did, but I don't know.
All right, so not Mike Trout.
Right, we have established that much.
Did Ohtani?
He was Rookie of the Year in 2012, but he did not win his first MVP until 2014.
Bum year in 2014.
Yeah, right? What a loser. Thank you to Jake Rill, who, of course, covers the Orioles for MLB.com, who sent this out, and I was forwarded by Dan.
We will go with Ohtani. I'll say Ohtani.
Not Ohtani.
Man, I'm off to a bad start here.
Yeah, you are. You're off to a really bad start. You're over 2.
Gotta think of.
Yeah.
Jeez. Other Rookie of the Years and then one MVP the following year.
Yes. The next year.
Are there any pitchers?
I'm not going to give you that.
Verlander.
No.
Okay.
And I'll give you there are no pitchers.
Okay. All right. Why would you let me do that?
Really just wanted you to guess names, but I guess that's
all right.
too much
all right,
to
all right,
ask.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're right.
This is a very millennial thing. Well, give me the answer.
What was Juan Soto? Is Juan Soto on there?
Not Juan Soto.
Bryce Harper.
Not Bryce Harper.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Darn it. It's rough. Had to be in.
Rough scene.
Get you Mookie Betts.
Not Mookie Betts.
Jeez
Louise. Let's guess a few more. By the way, Mookie Betts was first in the straw poll in the National League at MLB.com this week for MVP, just ahead, of course, of his teammate Shohei Ohtani.
I don't think he was rookie. Freddie Freeman? He wasn't rookie.
Not Freddie Freeman, no.
Let's go with this millennium.
Yes, all this millennium.
Oh.
Yeah, all of them. But the good news is you've got none.
Miguel Cabrera?
Not Miguel Cabrera. All right. I guess we've reached the point where we've got to try to help you out. One was a Philly.
One was a Philly. Chase Utley?
Not Chase Utley.
Ryan Howard.
Yes, Ryan Howard was Rookie of the Year in 05, MVP in 06. Knew it. One was a Red Sox.
Manny Ramirez.
Manny Ramirez was not a rookie with the Red Sox.
No. Because neither was David Ortiz.
Nope.
So other rookies with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
I said Mookie Betts.
It's not Mookie Betts. We've established that.
Did he win? No, it wasn't. Not Rafael Devers.
Not Rafael Devers. I don't remember if he was Rookie of the Year or not. He's definitely not been MVP.
Yeah, I don't think he's. Yeah. Bad guess. Scratch that one.
Yeah, definitely not. He never said it. Yeah.
I don't want that one to be
right. No, on the record. That's a great point. Otherwise, it would ruin your sparkling performance.
What?
Yeah.
Johnny Damon.
Not Johnny Damon.
He never was MVP.
No, certainly wasn't. I also want to say he came up in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
I want to say that's the case. 07 and 08 would be the years for this. 07
Dustin
and
Pedroia.
08. Dustin Pedroia.
Knew
There's the a-hole Red Sox fan in your life likes to call him Scrappy McScrapperson. Wanking motion. And then
MVP. Wow, what were his numbers in 08?
I do remember him winning MVP, and I don't. I tell you why. I remember all of this very well because I was in Arizona in 07, and they held his Rookie of the Year press conference at Arizona State, which I thought was an interesting. Like that was weird, right? Like I don't know if they still even do these like awards press conferences, but like instead of flying him back to Boston to do it for the local media.
When did where was Gunnar when he did it?
I don't even know that they did one.
I know they did like a quick little Zoom with the local media.
Yeah, I think that might be what they do now.
Yeah.
So they did I remember the Arizona State calling frantically like, "Hey, we need people to come over and cover something tomorrow." And I was like I didn't know how to say, like, if you hired a new water polo coach, we're sorry. We're good. They're like, no, we have to host Dustin Pedroia's Rookie of the Year press conference, but nobody's allowed to know that he won until it's announced, and
we need people
here. And I was like, that's very weird. It's very weird. And then a Cub.
Oh, Cub. Javier Baez.
No. How about no?
Cody Bellinger.
Not. How about no?
Oh,
Cody Bellinger was a Dodger. Yeah.
Who am I thinking? Who? I just know him as a Cub now.
Right. Sure.
He's had so many memories as a Cub.
Anything else?
What were the other good Cubs?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know.
Oh boy. 2015 and 2016 would be the years.
I figured that.
You know, they were good then. I'm not sure if you remember.
Because
accomplished some
they
things.
had
won
really
the first
good player.
World Series.
Right, with Chris Bryant.
Chris Bryant, of course, was Rookie of the Year and MVP.
So
nailed it. Nailed it.
Thank you.
All over.
Thank you. I got him.
In fairness, I would not have done well with this either.
Chris Bryant.
I would not have done well with
see if
this.
I can rename them. Ryan Howard, Chris Bryant, and Dustin Pedroia.
Hey! Look at you. And Cal Ripken. And Cal Ripken. Those are the four. All right. Very, very good. when we come back in, either we'll track down Sean Casey. I don't know. Maybe he had an emergency mayor issue that he had to deal with where he had to get to City Hall. I'm not sure what's going on there. Either we'll track him down or we won't. Those are the options as I know them. But if not, then we'll go ahead and do Tidbit and Tubular before we talk to Cal Gibson to wrap up today's show. So that's what's on the docket here on a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Grayson Rodriguez, talking to people who have been part of his path as the Orioles hope he'll become their next homegrown ace. Also inside, we remember legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Drizel with stories from legends like Roy Williams and Bobby Cremins about what it was like to go up against the old left-hander. Press Box is available at over 500 locations around Baltimore, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can also find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Yes, Cal Gibson will join us in a little bit before we get out of here for the day. Today's show has also been brought to you by Sports and Social, the absolute best place to watch all of the big events, whether it's playoff action right now, just baseball games. I hear there's a car race that people care about on Sunday. Not my thing, but a lot of people seem to enjoy it.
Got that trophy with the famous name, of course.
Yes, the Borg Warner Trophy.
Yeah.
You knew that. Oh my! You obviously.
That's why I set you up for it.
Obviously knew that. And then all the fights this summer, the place to watch them is at Sports and Social inside Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, just steps away from the FanDuel Sportsbook. You can reserve your table by going to their website, reserve your blue reclining chair by heading over to the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Go right there in order to get it. From just a couple things real quick, then we'll go ahead and do Tidbit and Tubular. From Jeff Jeff says, Glenn, did you see Bobby Trossett reminded everybody that Jamal Adams was the guy? Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Jamal Adams last year, apparently a Jets reporter named Connor Hughes criticized Jamal Adams on Twitter. He just used the phrase "yikes" to describe the cut, and he didn't even use his name. So the NFL tweeted out a video of Dak Prescott throwing a touchdown with 4:37 left, and I guess Jamal Adams was in coverage. I don't see the video anymore. I'm only seeing the screenshot. And Connor Hughes, who's a Jets beat reporter, tweeted out, "Yikes." And I guess presumably that means it had to. Why would a Jets person care about this if it didn't involve Jamal Adams? And then Jamal Adams, like a creep, went and found a picture of Connor Hughes and his wife and shared the picture and retweeted that with the phrase "yikes," which one, this woman is quite lovely, first of all. Like, it's a very lovely woman, so like it's just stupid. Is that specifically a reason why I wouldn't sign Jamal Adams? No, but it definitely is beyond the pale. I mean, there's no getting around that. I always liked Matt Judon. I didn't like it when Matt Judon started a personal fight with Jamison Hensley and suggested that he had pictures of Jamison Hensley stepping out on his wife, which was always absurd, and this is just Matt Judon thinking that he was funny in a childish way. Like, he didn't. It was just him trying to pick a fight. But to what gain? Like, it's just, there's just nothing there. There's no win there whatsoever. This is beyond the pale, absurd, and was shameful of Jamal Adams, right? Like, say somebody's a bad writer. Go retweet one of their stories and say "yikes." There will be people that won't like that, but it's fair game. That's what that person does for a living. You want to say I'm a bad podcast host or whatever this is, radio host, but fine. By all means, it's fair game. That's what I do for a living. I'm in the public. Plenty of people have. Trust me. And they're not all even, my kids. They're like, I come home, they're like, dude, you're really bad. I'm like, thanks, man. Good to see you. You dropped that pop-up. You suck. Would it be the reason that I would say no, he can't be on the list? No. But, certainly you got to get a sense for what he's all about as a representative of your organization if you're going to sign him, 1,000%. Hey, man, we're not going to do that here. Like, are those vendettas things that you care about that deeply? Because if they are, I'm good. Now, look, Jamal Anderson, the famous former Falcons running back. Jamal Adams, if he wants to be on social media and clap back and do that, hell, Lamar does that, right? Like Lamar, one of the most famous people on the planet.
Johnny.
That Johnny was different. That wasn't really.
Yeah, I guess that wasn't.
But like, what is it? Your mammy one time, like Lamar does that. So you're not going to get me to get angered about somebody who is on social media and claps back. Like, just understanding the line is, like, you don't try to take a picture of someone's wife and call them ugly. Like, that's lame. That's beyond the pale. Margaret points out what you're saying. It's gross. I would question Adam's judgment. Not the energy I'd want on my team. Yeah, I get that. It would not be disqualifying to me. It would be...
A lot of people are comparing it to the Earl Thomas. The way that ended was obviously...
Well, the Earl Thomas thing was Earl Thomas
and he
was a far more dramatic problem related to Earl Thomas. Like, comparing this to that, you're not going to
get me. The red flags, I guess, that maybe Earl Thomas had somewhat coming in.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Jamal Adams. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about Jamal Adams. That incident was not good. There's no getting around that. That was a very ugly thing and not not okay, and we can't excuse it, anything along those lines. But I don't know enough about Jamal Adams personally to know, is this who he is, or did he have a really bad day on social media? Certainly that in particular make you say, like, maybe I would need to do much more homework. I would just want to know, like, what is this guy someone that can get rattled? Like, is this someone that, like, is affected by these things? I'm never going to be the type of person, well, you can't defend yourself on social media. There's a lot of things that dude could have done in response to, first of all, it does say something that, like, you're still bothered by some Jets reporter. Like, dude, what's going on in your life? Like, what in the world? Why do you care? But you're never going to say, like, somebody's not allowed to be on social media or not allowed to fight on social. Like, I don't. If you're playing good football, go play good football. But you got to understand that specifically unacceptable. And if the Ravens have a conversation with him, he says, "Look, man, I know, I had a bad day that day. I get it. I screwed up. I shouldn't have done that." If that's the case, then it can probably be water under the bridge for me at that point. But you got to be able to have that conversation and be able to say, we're not doing that here. That's not happening. That's the entirety of the way that I feel about that. All right, let's go ahead and do a Tidbit and Tubular, and then we'll chat with Cal Gibson. Tidbit is brought to you today by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com, proud sponsors of CountySports.Zone, CountySports.Zone. Of course, we gotten through the MIAA championships, now on to the public school championships in spring sports. Find out more, CountySports.Zone. Again, CountySports.Zone is the website. It's all brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com.
We'll see how the first one goes. I have two, but we'll see. So Sarah Lanks tweeted yesterday, after Gunnar homered for the 16th time this season, he became the 5th player to homer 16 times in a team's first 45 games of the season at age 22 or younger.
I think I might have seen this.
You might have seen it. It's a good list. Number one, there are two guys who had 18 home runs in their first 45 games, age 22 or younger.
Age 22.
3 guys with 16 home runs, so 2 more tied with Gunnar.
Now, all right, so I'm pretty sure Alex Rodriguez was on the list.
Alex Rodriguez is on the list. 18 home runs in 1998 in the first 45 games of the year.
Was it Bryce Harper?
Bryce Harper is on the list. 16 home runs as well in the first 45 of 2015.
And those are the ones I remember. I don't remember the others that were on the list.
That'd been a good guess for me, Bryce Harper. I don't know why I didn't guess him.
Well, you would have been wrong.
I would have been wrong, but I feel like it would have been a better guess than...
Yeah, some of them, maybe. Mike Trout.
Not Mike Trout.
Not Mike Trout.
So the 2 that you were missing both played in the 50s.
Both played in the 50s. Oh, Harmon Killebrew was on the list.
Harmon Killebrew was on the list.
I've talked about before. Was my mother's favorite baseball player, and she cried when she saw the... I was a kid. We were at the Mall of America. My mother lived in Minnesota and apparently was like basically neighbors with Harmon Killebrew, which somehow in my entire childhood never came up.
18.
I guess she assumed I wouldn't know who Harmon Killebrew was, so like she never brought it up. And then we were visiting my parents. We drove across the country twice when I was like in my early teen, like 13 years old, something like that. And on one of those, we stopped at the Mall of America. And at the Mall of America, they have some sort of record or milestone home run of Harmon Killebrew's. The seat that it hit, that seat is in the exact place, because the old baseball stadium in Minnesota was at the place where the Mall of America is. They have the seat fixtured where it was at the stadium. And it's weird. It's just like up on a wall inside the mall. And it's just this random seat. And my mother saw it and was like, "What's that?" And then we went over and looked at this plaque. And then she started crying. And I was like, what the hell is going... What in the what?
That's nice that it meant so much to her.
It's so bizarre.
1959 was when that happened. With 18 homers.
So the other one was Mickey Mantle.
It was not Mickey Mantle.
The other one was... Oh, God. The other one was...
I guess they would have been it was in 1953.
1953.
So I guess they would have been the Boston Braves at the time.
Oh, Eddie Matthews.
Eddie Matthews,
Okay.
also 16 home runs, tied with Gunnar and Bryce Harper.
Okay.
And then Caleb Brewer and A-Rod at the top.
It's a pretty good list.
It is.
Pretty good.
Do you want to do
list.
another one? Or
how quick would it be?
This one may be a little bit more time consuming.
All right, we can try.
All right. Cedric Mullins stole his 100th base.
So it was 100 base.
He became the 9th Oriole to steal 100 bases.
Oh, I did. I definitely saw this going around.
8 Orioles also have 100
Okay,
stolen
so
bases.
Brady, obviously.
Brady has the most, 307.
Brian Roberts.
Correct.
God. I mean, I know others. I don't know why I'm. How about Al Bumbry?
Al Bumbry. You're in order right now. 1, 2,
yeah?
and 3.
Now
Can you get the
pressure.
4th?
Probably not. Don Baylor?
Not Don, or well, I mean, yes, Don Baylor, but
Okay.
not in order. But yeah, Don Baylor, 118 stolen bases. He would be 7th.
Oh, Louis Aparicio.
Louis Aparicio, 166.
Belanger?
Mark Belanger, also 166 steals, tied with Aparicio.
How about that?
You're missing number 4 on the list, and then there's a guy with 103.
4 and a guy with 103. Paul Blair.
Paul Blair is number 4 on the list.
Okay.
And then you're missing the guy that is between Don Baylor and Cedric Mullins. Cedric stole another base last night, so he's at 101 now.
Like, now I'm starting to think it's guys that weren't really base stealers, but, like, you know, just played long enough that, like, it's a dumb, this is going to be a dumb guess. It's going to be a dumb guess.
Well, we'll see. He was a base
Ken
stealer.
Singleton.
No, not Ken Singleton.
No, he was a base stealer? I didn't catch you saying that. Sorry. Don Buford.
Not Don Buford. Don Buford at 85.
Adam Jones.
Adam Jones is just outside 90. Bum.
He was a base stealer, so someone who was here for not as long of a period of time.
He was only
but
here
still.
for 3 seasons, or maybe parts of a 4th. I can't remember those parts of a 4th, but 3 seasons.
3 seasons. Nate McLeod?
Not Nate McLeod.
Yeah, I don't really remember him.
That's kind of the right.
Kind of the right.
Go a little bit before Nate McLeod.
A little bit before Nate McLeod. So a bad team?
Yeah.
Jay Payton?
No, not Jay Payton. Jay Payton.
Corey Patterson?
Corey Patterson.
Yeah, we could have been here. If you hadn't. Could have been
103 steals.
Yeah, that's tough. All right, very good. Now it's time for Tubular.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
All right, so here's what's coming up tonight. We mentioned Orioles Cardinals again at 7:45 this evening on Masson 2. Kyle Bradish, Lance Lynn, the pitching matchup. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA. Pacers Celtics. That's at 8 o'clock on both ESPN and on ESPN2. And is it some sort of bit they're doing on ESPN2, or is it just the game, the same broadcast on both?
Are they doing like a stat cast or something?
Or like a watch up? Like, are they doing a Manning cast? Like, are they having
if they are,
Peyton and Eli sitting around
selling
watching
it.
basketball? I don't know what that is.
They
but
should
it's
have
on,
Peyton and Eli doing it.
It's on both. It's on ESPN and ESPN2. The other baseball games: Masson for Twins Nationals at 6:45. MLB Network has Diamondbacks Dodgers at 10:30. I guess that's joined in progress because it starts on ESPN Plus at 10. MLB TV has Rockies Athletics at 9:40. ESPN Plus also has Mariners Yankees at 7. TBS for Braves Cubs at 7:40. The Washington Mystics and LA Sparks tonight at 10 on Monumental, and the USA Network for WWE NXT tonight at 8. Some non-sports highlights.
Disappointing for everyone. It is the series finale of The Good Doctor.
Son of a bitch. He's a good. I wish Kyle was here. Every time he would say the good doctor, he'd be like, he's a good doctor.
No longer.
I couldn't name one thing about that show. Like one.
I don't think I could either.
I couldn't name a person on it. I think it's on CBS.
It is on ABC.
There you go. I couldn't name a single thing about that television program other than every time we did Tubular, Kyle would always say, hey, he's a good doctor.
Yeah? Yes? Okay. Find out. Watch tonight for the final time.
What's that?
He's a good doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Billie Eilish is going to be on Stephen Colbert. Kevin Costner will be on...
What's she plugging?
I don't know. Music.
The Fall Guy?
I don't... Is she
I have no idea. That's what I don't get it.
Music, I guess.
She in the Garfield movie? I'm thinking about taking the kids to the drive-in movie theater this weekend to see Garfield, although they haven't really earned it.
Who's in Garfield? Who's voicing Garfield?
I think Chris Pratt is involved in Garfield.
So he's just doing all the...
I don't know what he's
animated
doing.
characters. Kevin Costner's going to be on Kimmel. He's in a movie...
But I don't know if he's Garfield or if he's John. I don't know.
He's directing, actually, I think, as well. This movie with Josh Brolin, and it's a Western. It's called Horizon.
Oh, apparently he got a standing ovation at Cannes for this film.
So it's
But
like
in fairness, I also
chapters.
think they give a lot. Like, what was the dreadful Harry Styles, Olivia,
was this the one where he was like a cop or whatever? Like he was a
No,
British cop?
it was like there was a lot of drama on the set. Nick Kroll
Wilde
was involved with it.
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
It was like a serious movie.
And it was panned despite how the hype it got. Nick Kroll, Harry Styles. Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh, yeah, there
was
it
the
is. There it
film.
is.
Don't Worry, Darling. And I'm pretty sure that one also got a standing ovation because I think at Cannes a lot of things get standing
it looks kind of good. They got like Lou Wilson's in it, Sam Worthington's in it, and they're doing it in 2 chapters apparently. So the first chapter comes out in June, and then the second chapter of this movie series, I guess now comes out in August.
Okay.
So it's a Western. It looks interesting.
Don't Worry, Darling had a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes.
The penultimate episode of The Veil with Josh Charles and Elizabeth Moss.
I do need to. I'm
And
sorry, Josh.
And Dune 2 comes to streaming.
Oh.
Yes, available on HBO Max now.
Oh.
And then the rest of the week there's there's a Shane Gillis.
Email it to me and
there's a Stavros. He's in this show called Tires with Shane.
Oh,
Gillis.
I saw that like a promo for that on. Is it Netflix?
Yes,
that's on.
Comes out Thursday.
I mean, I'm certainly interested. Don't know if it'll be good or not, but I'm interested
I don't know
enough
either.
to watch. All right, very good. You can get all that at glennclarkradio.com as well. Tubular for the evening. Joe pointed out, Glenn, appreciate all the Gunnar Henderson discourse. I do agree with you that Adley Rutschman deserves more credit than he gets, but I am not in agreement that he would be MVP over Gunnar Henderson. What Gunnar Henderson is doing is insane. I hear you. I hear you. To me, it's about how much I measure what is the story of the 2020. And by the way, this is also absurd because you don't give an MVP out 2 months into the season. It's not worth it. It's not worth fighting about. Just us making conversation. That's all. All right, let's make conversation with our next guest. He didn't get his wish last night because, of course, Gunnar Henderson did hit a home run, and there was some waterworks in the dugout. But he got his wish overall, I guess, because his team won the game. He will be starting tomorrow against his former mates, a great guy who, in his short time here in Baltimore, did everything he could to impact our city. Now it's a pleasure to welcome back into the program Kyle Gibson, who's with us this morning on GCR. Kyle, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat again, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for us.
Yeah, no problem. How you guys doing today?
Well, other than the result of the game last night, everything is good.
It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
I was talking with the guys. Before the game. I was like, you know what? I think 2 out of 3 wouldn't be that too big a deal if the Cardinals win, so it'll be all right.
No, yeah, you're okay with that. Well, it's funny. I was going to bring this up with you. I don't remember exactly what it is. I believe the Orioles are 15-0 now when they've been faced with a sweep in their last 15 tries. So is there any small part of you that says maybe we go ahead and get that out of the way tonight so I don't have to deal with that type of juju tomorrow? Oh.
I don't know. I think any win we can get the good one. So we'll worry about tomorrow when we get to tomorrow, right?
I get that entirely. Kyle, you had the fun with the guys and put up the water hoses sign yesterday. It's interesting because I just said it was a short time for you in Baltimore, but the impact of that season and how special it was and what you guys did. where is that for you on like things that you've been able to accomplish within this game?
Yeah, I got asked a little bit about that in the media yesterday, and like what made it special. And I just think if it really is no different for most people at their job, right? If you are around a group of people that you enjoy being around and you're all there for each other trying to push for a common goal, well, then you normally make some memories and you normally have some fun that you're going to remember. And that's what we did. It was a young group of guys with a few veterans mixed in that they brought in and few veterans that were already there. And we really weren't expected to do a whole lot. But internally, we knew we had a pretty good team, and we beat some expectations and had some fun doing it. So it's even though it was a short time, I've tried to do my best, the last few years in this game that I've been playing to really be present and to be where I'm at and to enjoy it. And those young guys pushed me out of my comfort zone a little bit every now and then and had me, maybe having a little bit more fun than I normally would have, whether it was water hoses or doing the sprinkler or, you name it. But that's what makes it all a part of the fun.
I wonder if you can define, because we know that teams, you're good when you have good players, and the Orioles are good because they've got some really good players. But that culture part of it was so obvious to all of us a season ago. How much does that play in to a team being able to succeed and accomplish the things that the Orioles are accomplishing? That, like, you just have that right mix of guys that are enjoying being around each other. How important is that on top of, obviously, you need to have good baseball players?
Yeah, I think that's probably the inner battle that analytics and data has in sports, because you really can't quantify it, right? And you can have all the great players, and then somebody can say, oh, well, we just didn't have the right culture, and that's why we lost. Well, it kind of sounds like an excuse. Or you can bring in a couple players and you can just really feed off of the players that were already there, is what we did. And you can say, well, we got a great culture, and people say, well, really, that's why you won? I think you got a lot of great players. And I think obviously we did. But I think there's something to be said about when guys get called up and they're already comfortable with the people around them. That makes a big difference. Guys are already comfortable being young in the game. That's tough to do. Or you lose a couple games and nobody's fazed because they're still doing the same thing because they're having fun. They're finding ways to entertain themselves, either at the field or on the road, to make sure that everybody's staying together and staying loose. That's part of culture. And wanting to show up. I know that sounds silly, wanting to show up, but when you're in a slump or when you're struggling on the mound, like, every now and then you kind of look around like, is everybody looking at me right now? Because I'm the one struggling. Well, a good culture kind of takes that away. And there's not as much friction, because when somebody struggles and maybe, quote, loses the game for you, which rarely, if ever, happens, everybody's there trying to pick him up and making sure that he's ready for the next game, because you're going to need that guy.
He is Kyle Gibson. He is with us here on GCR. Kyle, I remember talking to you when you signed in St. Louis and getting the sense of, for someone who's from the Midwest, what it meant to you to have the opportunity to be a St. Louis Cardinal. I know it was a tough start to the season, although you guys have started playing really well recently. But what is it, now that you've experienced it, now that you've played in front of that crowd and that fan base, how has the experience compared with what your imagination was and why it was so exciting for you to have the opportunity to be a Cardinal?
Yeah, we've lived here for, coming up on 7 years now. So, and then my wife's family is from this area her whole life. And then I've got a lot of friends from Indiana that were Cardinals fans. So that's kind of always been something that's been in the back of my mind of, man, playing for a team that so many people that I know already cheer for might be kind of fun. And then add in the fact that we've got 4 kids that are very active in doing things, giving me the chance to be around them a whole lot more. That obviously sounded great. And then, I'm at the point in my career where, I want to make sure that I'm in a spot where I can try to make the playoffs, if that's always possible. And that's something that has been more and more fun the last few years. So, finding a team that I knew was going to be in the thick of it and really trying and being competitive and pushing for a playoff spot was important. And, the Cardinals and the Cardinal fan base, they don't take really anything less than that. So that's the expectation. So I knew going into it that we were going to be a team that was going to be pushing for that. And, like you said, it's been a slow start, but, back to that culture side, when you can create a culture that, has players, not worrying and not panicking and sticking to the process, well, then normally that lets you kind of get on a roll and end up being the team that you really envisioned yourself being.
So, we got to deal with it, right? Like that. I'm sure you agree with us. That was a terrible call last night, and that should have been strike 3 before Siani hit the home run. And I'm not saying it's right, but I'm sure you're a good man. You're willing to do it. I have no doubt that that's the case. But I want to broaden it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did not see the replay of that pitch because I was in a full-on no-hitter, not moving my position in the dugout scenario for the entire first 6 innings.
I guess that makes sense.
And then when Gunnar hit the homer, it got close, so I didn't move the rest of the game. So I was a full 9-inning sit yesterday in the dugout
fair enough,
watching that game. I heard that it might have been in the strike zone. Just before that.
Entirely in this strike zone, like not close.
Yeah. Sometimes that box can be wrong. Sometimes the box on TV can be misleading. That's all I gotta say.
You know what? That's fair. It's like the yellow first down marker in on the TV in football. It is not legal. That is not the reference. That's the way it goes. I bring that up though because I am fascinated. I was talking about it with Kurkjian earlier in the show. Where you're at with the idea of we've seen the challenge system implemented like in the minors a little bit, and they did it during the spring breakout games. I have said all along, I would think that it would behoove pitchers significantly because it would kind of largely expand the strike zone, right? Because any ball that even touches the plate would be obviously called a strike in a challenge system. Are you in favor of either the challenge system, the full-on automated balls and strikes, or are you, being an old-school guy, like, no, man, this is part of the game. This is just the way it's going to be?
Well, I'm more in favor of a challenge system than the full ABS because what it sounds like is they shrunk the strike zone to create the ABS, and I am never going to be a fan of shrinking the strike zone.
Right.
So I am a fan of the challenge system. I think it'd be really cool for fans and the experience at the game. I think it takes a little bit of pressure off of the umpires in certain situations because they obviously want to get all the calls right, and they're doing their best to do so. So that kind of helps them out, I think. I think it takes some of the arguing out of it and some of the banter, maybe keep some players in the game from arguing because once you're out of challenges, well, then you can't argue. And once you use your challenges, then, you get the call right or wrong. But I just think if you have 2 or 3 a game, I think you're going to end up with players kind of bantering back and forth about who gets to use the challenges. So I would rather than be individual players in charge of their own one challenge a game. And whenever they want to use it, they can use it.
That's an interesting thought because I've heard people say before like 1 per at bat, but is the idea like that's just too much? Everybody's going to use it. The game will end up going too long if that's the case.
I mean, maybe, but how many guys swing at the first pitch and put it in play?
That's fair.
How many pitches do you see? How many at bats always have a borderline pitch? Not all of them, but maybe not 1 per AB, but 2 per game and 2 or 3 for a pitcher, I think would be fine.
So give away the dirty secrets. Should everybody be swinging at the first? It feels like in baseball this year, it's been more beneficial. We've seen that teams be a little bit more aggressive in general early in counts. As a pitcher, does it make sense that teams are getting a little bit more aggressive and swinging after the first pitch?
I don't know. I'm not sure how much we're getting into game planning here. Is this chess playing checkers right now? You trying to have me talk about the approach tomorrow or what?
Give away all the secrets, please.
So,
tell us. Should we swing at the first pitch or not?
I think it's always important for a pitcher to be 0-1.
Yeah.
And for a pitcher to be 0-1, most of the time you need to throw a ball in the strike zone.
Yeah.
So, and if that's the case, then I think it's always beneficial for pitchers to be in the strike zone. And that tells me that there is still an advantage for the pitcher being in the strike zone 0-0. And I think it helps for me. If I give up a first pitch single, I've got a guy on first base, a chance for a double play, and the guy on deck saw nothing that I just threw. So I'm okay with it. And that guy's next AB, he's seen 1 pitch. I still got 4 more that I can throw him. He's seen nothing. I think, there's times where you swing at the first pitch if you've got a tendency from the pitcher that he's always throwing this or throwing that. But I mean, I think good teams have good mixtures of guys that swing the first pitch and guys that work counts.
All right, and because that was such a good answer, and I really appreciate it, I'll try again here. How the hell do you go about dealing with Gunnar Henderson right now?
So I haven't looked at all the report yet. That's going to be my task for today. I don't know. That's a great question. I'm still working on that one.
It's pretty
Still
special.
working
I mean, like when he was struggling early last season, did you see enough in like his approach and the way he was taking pitches and working counts that like you knew, hey, this guy, he's gonna be everything that people say is. It's just gonna take a minute.
Yeah, there was zero panic in that locker room about Gunnar Henderson being really, really good. The quality of bats that he was taking when he was struggling, like you just said, if you can walk at the high clip that he was walking at, I think that's the sustainability on base percentage that people kind of oogle and look at and get excited about. And then I think it was just some of seeing how pitchers were going to pitch him and seeing which pitches from each guy he's going to be able to hit and find his hot zones and kind of be stingy to it, and be sticking to his strengths and then, figuring out when he needs to expand every now and then to protect. But, it was only a matter of time, as those guys in the locker room saw last year, is this kid's going to be special, and obviously he really is.
Kyle, I mentioned earlier that one of the things that we appreciated most about you was that you showed up on day one in Baltimore and wanted to do things for our community and get involved, and you hosted events. And I know how important Big League Impact is to you and how you were able to get some of your teammates last year to get involved, and they're continuing to do that. So before I let you go, can you remind everybody why it's something that's so important to you and the things that you guys are continuing to do with Big League Impact?
Yeah, Elizabeth and I, everywhere we've been, we've tried to immerse ourselves in the community that has welcomed us and welcomed our family. And, a part of our life is our faith, and it's a big part. And we believe that we've been, given a lot, and it's our job to make sure that we're stewarding that and helping other people. And Big League Impact has been an amazing vehicle for us to do that. We're at Big League Impact. We're trying to give players like Austin Hayes, like Cedric Mullins, a platform to be able to give and raise money for charities that they're passionate about. And I was super excited to hear that these guys wanted to do a Topgolf event, wanted to keep going with the all-win campaign. So if you're an Oriole fan listening, which obviously most of you are, head to bigleagueimpact.org, and you can look up your 4 or 5 Orioles that are donating for every team win, and you can sign up for their Topgolf event and support the charities that they're passionate about. And let's face it, everybody in life wants to be a part of something bigger. And at any gift amount, whatever you can give, you can be a part of something bigger if you go to bigleagueimpact.org and check it out. So super thankful for those guys who are doing that again this year, and I'm excited to see it going well.
It's an awesome thing, and we really did appreciate the fact that you showed the leadership in that way to step up for these guys to want to be able to make that type of impact as well. Kyle Gibson, we always are going to say best of luck. We don't really mean that tomorrow. Like, we're lying through our teeth when we say that. But truly appreciate you taking the time, man. Continued success to you personally, and thank you so much for doing this with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Great talking with you.
Kyle Gibson, former Orioles pitcher, getting ready to start for the Cardinals tomorrow against the Orioles. We were talking about it obviously yesterday with Mark Sweeney. Like, Kyle Gibson was not great in Baltimore, and to try to suggest as such would be incorrect. But he did play a role as a leader, as showing guys how to do things. It was important what he did, and he cared about the community, and he, I used that word impact. Like, he made an impact in that way, and I'll always and forever be appreciative of that. And he will be somebody that you will remember, because you'll remember the 2023 Orioles because they were a special team that showed you, hopefully, the path for championships in the coming years. So, I don't think he'll ever be remembered like Nelson Cruz. Like, you think about guys that were here for 1 year that, like, we treat. There are 1-year athletes that we remember. And some are unique, right? Like Trent Dilfer, for example, will be an iconic Baltimore Raven. Now, that's because he was the quarterback of a team that won a Super Bowl. But he was here for 1 year, 1 season. There are others that stand out just guys that almost became beloved or like folk heroes. Jim Leonard is one of those guys. Was a safety, spent one season in Baltimore, and everybody talked about Jim Leonard for years after that. Nelson Cruz stands out significantly among one-year guys and the impact they made. Kyle Gibson probably wasn't that. Maybe he's closer to Jim Leonard. But appreciate the role that he played for a franchise that was turning things around. Now, hopefully, he gets his brains beat in tomorrow. No offense. No offense. Just hopefully that's the case. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks today to Kyle Gibson. Thanks also to Wes Brown and Tim Kurkjian. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Griffin's off tomorrow, and so is Drew. Oh, gee, gosh, golly. That's just too – I don't know how we survive that. I don't know. It's just too bad. It's too bad.
Yeah, too bad, Drew. Yeah, it is a real question. How are you gonna?
I don't know what we'll do. Do we have anybody joining us?
It'd
be good if we had guests.
It would be good.
A good way to go about doing things.
I want to go down to the farm at some point the rest of the week.
Okay, well that would be good.
Yeah,
I would like that.
That's the best I can do right,
this
right
is
now.
not promising. Not promising.
I know.
Hopefully we'll have some things lined up for tomorrow. Hopefully that'll be the case.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. In the meantime, thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County. A.J. Michaels, Gilbert Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, the Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, MSAA, Maryland Jockey Club, Glory Days Grill, Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Don't forget, radio tonight. It's just me from 7 to 9 over on 105.7 The Fan. I'll talk some NBA playoffs with Stephanie Reddy and preview the lacrosse Final Four with our buddy Evan Washburn, who's working the broadcast for Westwood One, among other things this evening. So hope that you'll join us over on 105.7 The Fan tonight. All right, thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Safe travels. Where are you headed?
I'm going to Los Angeles to visit my friend for a few days.
You doing anything while you're out there?
We're gonna do a Dodgers game.
Okay, who are they playing?
They're playing the D-backs. Big NL West
fact,
matchup.
Jack. I back, you back, we back the D-backs.
Is that that's what you guys would say?
I don't know if that ever. When I was out there, Roger Klein, who was in the band The Refreshments, and was like the local musician in Arizona. Great guy, party guy, liked him a lot. He released this D-backs anthem, and they were playing it the year that they made the run to the NLCS. I have no idea if they continued with it or not. It was called the D-backs Swing, and I can remember all of the words because I really enjoyed the tune. It's a fact, Jack. I back, you back, we back the D-backs. I don't know why, but I really liked it.
That's like the left hand up. Who are we?
Yeah, who are we?
Commanders.
The Commanders. It's
Same
not.
thing, basically?
I like this one better than that one.
I don't know. Left hand up Commanders is pretty.
Everybody, all the people really seem to enjoy it.
I was thinking I'll just wear my Adley jersey. I think. I don't think.
That's what I would do.
Yeah,
that's what I would do when I would go to like when I would sit in the. I remember going to a Cardinals Browns game and just wearing a Jamal Lewis jersey. Just that's the team I root for. Everybody's like, "Why would you do that?" Like, hey, bro, I'm not a Diamondbacks fan. Sorry, like I don't wish ill upon them, but I'm not. I have a team. I'm going to wear my teams. That's the way it's going to go. All right, enjoy your trip. Safe travels. At Griffin_Bass. At Glenn Clark Radio for us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Birds. Duke sucks.